New American Liberty League. Listen, now I know I don't have the face for videos or the voice for podcasts. So to all of you in Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran that are going to see this with Starlink, I'm sorry. I am D. Hearn, Daniel Leonardo Hernandez. This is my son, Emil Alexander Hernandez, in whom I am well pleased. Big topic again is going to be on God, and we're going to tie in some current events and how godly and divine America is. In the notebook in news, we're also going to get into the topic of Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran, Persia. We're going to get into what's going on in Minnesota, capitalist pig. We're going to talk about possible investments because of all the freedom that is spreading across the world and life. Man, not a lot going on. The NFL playoffs, some other things. We'll get into that. Big topic. Emil.
Blind bastard.
America. Why is it so blessed by God? Why did it even come to be? America, the reason people first came to the land was to worship God, how they saw fit. We were literally founded on God, founded on Christ. Early on, even Spanish explorers, some are rumored to be Messianic Jews. And later on, we have Christians of every denomination. We have Catholics, Jews were here. We know as early as the 1600s. This nation was made to worship God. Early on, the Bible was taught in our schools. Our laws are established and made pretty much from the 10 Commandments. We are a godly nation. And why? You look at how blessed and favored Washington was. Look at how blessed and favored we were during World War II. I believe God uses this nation for good. That's not to say we're perfect. That's not to say some of the fruit is rotten. But we will be judged by our fruits. And overall, the fruits America have brought to the world have been great. Through America, God has brought freedom to millions and millions and millions. God favors freedom. We brought, like we talked about just a second ago, the freedom to worship God as we saw fit. Then, when Jews in modern times were being persecuted all across Europe, we brought freedom to the Jews in the form of Israel. Since then, we have brought and protected freedom around the world. This is why I believe America has been so blessed. And now you see it again. Now you see freedom on the move again, maybe since the first time since 9/11. And yes, the ball was dropped by weak presidents after that for Afghanistan and Iraq. But now is the first time since then we have freedom on the move. And it's on the move in our hemisphere, and it's on the move in Persia. Videos of freedom coming to Venezuela have been amazing. The videos of the uprising against the Ayatollah in Iran have been amazing. Videos of freedom coming to Cuba will be amazing. And America is bringing freedom because God has blessed us to be that nation that He brings freedom through. Emil, God loves freedom. Freedom is on the move. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yes. So I have two things to add about that. God gives us freedom. He has given us free will. And our founders understood that better than almost anybody alive today. They understood that the Bill of Rights is not actually what gave us our rights. Our rights came from God, and the founders mentioned that over and over and over again. And it was such an important part of starting our nation. It's part of why they didn't like Britain, because they understood that Britain was actively going against God's will by trampling over their rights. And I feel like in the modern day, we have to understand that with these nations that trample over other people's rights, and in our own nation, if we ever feel like our rights are being trampled, we have to remember that it's not government who gives us our rights, it's God. And the second part of this that I want to go on is you were talking about 9/11 and freedom being spread around that time. And you got to see it with other things like the fall of the Berlin Wall and the USSR. And I'm sure that was amazing. But for me, this is the first time for my generation that I really get to see it and actively remember it. Some of those things after 9/11, of course, I got to see. But I don't really remember it. I didn't feel the impact of it necessarily. Mm-hmm. But watching these videos of Iran with the flag being switched out, I mean, I feel like that's going to be an iconic moment for history. Seeing the Venezuelan president get captured was huge. And inevitably, seeing Cuba get taken back over is going to be amazing for our family. When our family gets to reconnect again and things of that nature.
Awesome point. Yeah, there's something, when America and freedom is on the march, there's something special about it. You feel it, you remember it as you age. History remembers it. Of course, you run into the problem of strong leaders doing it, and then you get weak leaders that tend to drop the ball. But either way, when freedom is moving, it is God given. It is divine, and so is our nation. Sponsor, Emil, MTL Designs. So we are now working with a design company and architectural company all in one. MTL Designs. Been working with them online. Met them for the first time this weekend. These are great people, good Christians. A family business, a local business. If you want to support a good Christian local business, and you need any help with floor plans, architectural help, any draftsman drawings, anything of that nature, MTL Designs sponsor this half hour. News, Emil. Let's get into that. Just the freedom on the march. Me and you on this show, on our pages, soon as Trump tapped Rubio for Secretary of State, we said Cuba's the plan. Mm-hmm. Latin America is the plan. Freedom's coming. The reason I knew this right away is because in Trump's first administration, he talked about getting the influence of communism out of our hemisphere. He wasn't able to make it happen in his first administration. I knew as soon as Rubio was tapped, that was the plan. Venezuela had to fall because Russia, China, their main source of revenue and the main reason they're in our hemisphere was because of Venezuelan oil. They also have oil leases around Cuba, but not like Venezuela. Venezuela had to fall, and you kill so many birds with one stone. You get rid of their money making off the oil. You get rid of the drug cartels coming to America so easily, and even to Europe. You open up a base, or a puppet base at least, right in Venezuela, which is right on the border leading to Mexico, where most border crossers come straight through. It's just so many great things happen with Venezuela falling on top of us taking control of the oil, cheaper oil here. We're going to put some of that towards our national debt. Just so many great pieces of the puzzle. Also, Venezuela was one of the last funders of the remnants of the Cuban government. So if Cuba is, and I don't know that strategically Cuba is more important than Venezuela, but imagery wise it is. When Cuba falls, to me, that is an indication that communism is out of our hemisphere. So Venezuela falling first was a great plan. Cuba will be next. I predict that I'm going to call a date out here. On July 26, 2026, Trump and Rubio will be giving a speech from Havana. And also, if you look at what's happening in Iran with the Ayatollah falling, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Freedom is on the march. All these people in Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran, Persia, free Persia, that want freedom, that want their countries and cultures to be more like America. They're fighting for it. They're risking it all for it. And you got idiots in America pushing for America to be more like those places under the Ayatollah and under communism. Freedom is on the march. Emil, anything specifically, strategically, how does it feel? What goes through your mind when you think of it?
Honestly, I think it's beautiful. We did talk about it for a while, almost. I remember some conversations we've had even a year ago about Cuba and the Western Hemisphere starting to push communism out. I didn't expect Trump to move as quickly as he did. I thought it would be a little bit of a slower process, but I love the pace at which he's doing it at, because it seems like he's going to leave nothing to midterms. Like, he's not risking midterms screwing him over, and I love that. Although I think we're going to end up winning midterms, so it won't matter. I like the fact that he is at least thinking like that. I love what you said at the very end about we're actively seeing people fight for freedom overseas, whereas here, we're actively fighting to be more like those people.
Unbelievable.
And which is absolutely insane. We have seen it time and time again. When we look at Venezuela, it's a great example. They used to be one of the richest countries on the planet. And by their oil reserves, which we know they have, which is valued at $16 trillion, they still should have been one of the richest countries on the planet. But due to authoritarian communism, it had actively, drastically fallen, so much so that they could barely sell their own oil to their own people because nobody had cars to drive around. Nobody had any use for gasoline over there.
Yep.
Unless you're in very high power. And I think that just goes to show that what we have in America, our capitalist system, is truly great. And these people in DC trying to ruin it with their socialist tendencies need to get out of here and need to stop preaching for it. And over in Iran, with the Ayatollah and Islamism, we need to look at that and show that that is a plague for America and that we have actively got to start fighting against it now and get ahead of it before it really starts taking action.
It's a plague for the world. I don't even know what to say about it. There's just so many moving parts. It's all so interesting. Like Emil said, through any time in modern history, when you go from freedom to communism, from free markets to communism, the quality of life goes to shit. Everybody goes poor. I've been asked before why communists do this, knowing the history, knowing how it works. This is my theory. And I could say this about a lot of Democrats in America. The reason communism is appealing to these people is because they are in large atheists. They don't think about the afterlife. They don't care about who they leave behind. These are heartless, soulless people. So the people in power are okay sucking the country completely dry so that they could live their life in luxury and in power. And they don't care what happens to their own soul when they die, and they don't care what happens to their own people when they die. They only see that 80-year time slot as it. For many communists, that's it. That's all they see. It's all they care about. And it's how they justify within themselves, doing what they do to the people. That's my own theory.
I want to point out one more thing to that. They suck their entire country dry to get rich and still end up being poorer than a lot of people in America.
Right.
There's places in Miami, a lot of these like millionaires condos that look much better than what that piece of garbage is living in over in Venezuela. I want to mention one more thing in the news that me and you have had an interesting discussion on. What do you think is going to be the ruling for Maduro? And not necessarily what you think, but what do you think the smartest action is? Do you think we should kill him? Do you think we should just jail him? What do you think we should do?
I think this, and we've talked about this before, I think the best thing this administration could do, if I could have my wish, it would be for us to get Maduro to spill the beans on all the politicians in America and Europe that are making drug money with the cartels. Everything Democrats do in this country is about two things: corruption and promoting sin. Those borders being open like they were for 4 years under Biden was only because Democrats and maybe even some Republicans were getting their pockets laced. They were getting money sent straight to their account. All these things that don't make sense, when you follow the money, they begin to make sense. So that's what I think the best thing we could do for Maduro is I wish we would have him and just go after him about what Americans the cartels were in bed with.
I completely agree.
Let me also say this about freedom being on the march, and not exactly freedom, but an interesting thing. This conversation about Greenland, I understand that Trump and Republicans are using Russia and China as talking points. And for right now, that might sound great. I don't believe it. J.D. Vance mentioned something earlier this year, so I know it's on the administration's mind and foresight at least. Europe, many countries, especially in Western Europe, are on the verge of becoming Muslim countries with powerful militaries and even nuclear weapons. And if you look at where Greenland is positioned, just like we have Alaska and Hawaii to give us a buffer in the Pacific on the west, Greenland can give us a buffer. I'm talking 25, 30 years from now against a Islamist Europe. I know that's not being said because the administration don't want to sound crazy and look like they're thinking and talking about stuff 30 years ahead. I believe they are thinking 25, 30 years ahead to needing that buffer. It sounds crazy to say, but needing that buffer between America and Europe. So keep an eye on Greenland. I don't think it's important now, but I think 25 to 30 years later, we will start to understand why it was important now. Anything on Greenland?
I think that was really smart. I hadn't actually thought about it from that perspective. I thought it would be used as some sort of military strategic point. And also, I'm sure Greenland has a lot of untapped oil because it's right there around the ocean.
Probably a lot of untapped everything, yeah.
So overall, I think it would be great for America. When we're talking about it, we're not talking about it the same way we're talking about these other countries. About going in there, snatching their president, taking over everything. We're talking about actually buying Greenland and doing this in a
and they'll
much
fold.
more peaceful way.
They will sell. They will sell. We'll find the price. We'll find they'll fold. Greenland will be American. Also in the news, we got to talk about what's happening in Minneapolis and Minnesota. We all know about the fraud with the daycare, with everything else, which is why I believe that Walz was tapped to be vice president. Everybody's like, oh, how they tap him and not research him and not know all this stuff. They knew he was getting a bunch of Democrats paid for who knows how long. That's why he was tapped as the VP. That's why Biden was tapped as Obama's VP, because the people that work for the biggest money laundering organization in America work for the Democrat Party. So those that are good at it get promoted. Biden, Walz, that's why they were tapped as VP. I want to get into this lady, Nicole Good or Renee Good, whatever I don't even want to say her name. For one, the DNC, the Democrats made a bad projection of what was going to happen with this lady. They're trying to promote riots like what happened with George Floyd. They do this every time you're going into midterms or elections. They thought this gave them an opportunity. The problem is Democrats hate white women. Even white women Democrats hate white women. That's how crazy white guilt is. Democrats are not going to riot over a woman getting killed. She tried to run this guy over with a car. They're not going to riot about that. It was just a bad calculation on their part. I got so many. One thing that strikes me about people like her, probably people like her on a bigger and general scale, but it also makes me think about people, and I don't even want to say their names to give them the airtime, but it also makes me think about what happened in Butler with Trump and what happened to Kirk. The left has perfected brainwashing. They could do it on a mass scale, or they could isolate individuals that they know are ripe for manipulation, ripe to be talked into violent acts. When I say the shooters in Butler and with Kirk didn't act alone, I don't mean they had some crazy organization set up for them or anything like that. I believe they didn't act alone because they are pushed. They're very smoothly and strategically pushed into doing these things over time. And I don't know exactly how the left does it, but I know it's the left doing it. And they've perfected brainwashing, and they've perfected using the internet to do it. You see it with children's shows, and man, be careful what your children watch online. And the same thing, they've been able to find these young adults and manipulate them and brainwashing them into doing these things. And I almost feel bad for this good lady, because you could just see that this lady was not all there. So that's my thought on what's going on in Minneapolis. Emil, any thoughts on that whole situation with that lady? Or
yeah, so I'm going to talk on this lady, and then I want to go back to the corruption that we found in Minnesota. First with this lady, I just want to say I don't want to come out and sound like the Democrats after Charlie Kirk and start cheering for somebody's death. I do think, unfortunately, we do have to look at it logically and realize she might have been notably at fault, so that we don't start blaming the ICE agents for this. But after that, this woman is in the afterlife. She is getting judged by the ultimate judge. It is not my place to start going after this woman.
If anything, we should pray for her.
Yes, pray for her, pray for her family. I think it's very unfortunate because, like you said, she did have a family, she had kids, but she had just been so brainwashed by leftist media that she thought she had to go out and do this, and that she was dying as a martyr for these people. In her own head, that's what she thought. And it's just sad what the way Democrats get into people's head. And that's really all I have to say on the topic. When it comes to Minnesota, I want to point out one critical aspect of this, which is one person with one iPhone was able to make a gigantic story out of this fraud case. So if you ever think you're just one person, you don't have that much influence, you really can make huge change for this country. And I just want you to use this case as a great example of that, and remember that every time you do anything.
Absolutely. Just like the millions and millions of people that watch this show, from us recording with a phone. And by millions, I mean like 6. Fake sponsor this half hour, Emil. Speaking of Minnesota is nothing without Somalis. And if you want your kid to be as smart as those Somalis, take them to learning centers of Minneapolis, learning centers. Make your kids as smart as the fabric of America. Our Somalian brothers, learning centers of Minneapolis. Fake sponsor this half hour. Capitalist pig, Emil, we've been talking about Cuba a lot. I know what Cuba was before Castro. They called it the Vegas of the Caribbean. We know they have oil. We know they have sugarcane. We know they have beachfront properties. We know they're 90 miles away from America. How amazing of an investment will Cuba be? And let me ask you this, just to pick your brain a little bit. I guess there's no right answer. Hard to tell. Once Cuba does have freedom and American money and Miami money is able to flow into Cuba, how great of an investment will Cuba be? And how fast will it build back up to another just beautiful extension of America in the Caribbean?
So I'm going to start off with how great of an investment I think it'll be. We already know that USD goes very far over there because we have family over there. If we send them like $100, that could feed them for a long time. So because of how well our dollar translates over there, I think you can almost expect to see like a 10x on property value once American money starts really getting poured in. I think that is going to be the best investment because all of that beachfront property is very cheap right now. And
not for long.
If you get that while it turns into the Vegas of the Caribbean again, you're going to be looking at some very nice money. You end up buying a plot of land for $30,000, putting a little home on it, and in 10 years it's worth like $500,000 if it's a beachfront.
Millions in 10 years. Listen.
And
go ahead.
I want to go into
how long will it take once it's open to American money? How long of a process will it take before it's a real destination?
Once it's open to American money, I'm going to say about 3 years we're going to notice a pretty huge transformation. Casinos will start really being used. Americans will start viewing it as a tourist destination. And in 10 years, I think it's going to return to what it used to be. One of the prime capital like vacation spots for the world.
I think, and I could be wrong about this, there's two things that Cubans have done very well in America. They are unbelievable capitalists, and they have assimilated so perfectly. We are literally the poster children of assimilation. They're investors. They're smart with their money. They're very family oriented. The moment Cuba opens back up, there will be so much Cuban American investment from Miami, where these people have done extremely well, into Cuba. I don't think it's going to take long. I don't think it's going to take long at all. I think within a year, you're going to have cruises going there. You're going to have hotels being built there. I believe the influx of American money and industry into Cuba is going to be maybe a year-long process before it is again a world, at least a regional destination. And then within a few years after that, a world destination again. Just save up your money and invest in Cuba. I promise you a return. Life, Emil, listen, not a lot going on with us. The NFL playoffs. My prediction is, because I've seen this during the Gulf War, I've seen this after 9/11, and now freedom is on the march again. There's going to be some red, white, and blue correlation, either uniforms in the Super Bowl or the Patriots in the Super Bowl. God has a good sense of humor. So my prediction right now has to be the Patriots. They beat the Chargers last night. NFL playoffs, always awesome to watch, even though the Cowboys are garbage, unfortunately. And not much going on in life. Everything's going great with us. God is always good. What do you have going on in your life? I want to know you. In the comments, or Message us, whatever it is, man. I really want to know what good you have going on in your life. Show us how God is working in your life. Listen, support, as always, support anyone fighting for freedom. Support local businesses, conservative businesses, Christian businesses. Support conservative pages. We still have the shadow ban of shadow bans going. It started with COVID. Listen, we did a video on COVID and how not to let government control you before COVID was called COVID, when there were still burning bodies in China. And ever since then, we have had the ban of bans. So support New American Liberty League on Twitter. Not Twitter. X. What else are we on? TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Support this channel. Support all conservatives channels. And we are the New American Liberty League.
Saving the Republic, one listener at a time.